The Oblates of the Sacred Heart. The Salesian Oblates of the Sacred Heart, SOSC, founded by Salesian Bishop Giuseppe Cognata, servant of God. Thanks to the work of our founder, Bishop Cognata, Giuseppe, son of Vitale Cognata and Rosa Montana, was born on October 14, 1885 in Agrigento, Sicily. In 1897, he entered San Basilio Salesian College in Randazzo, in Catania, Sicily, and here young Peppino's Salesian vocation blossomed. On May 6, 1905, he professed his first vows as a Salesian of Don Bosco. On May 5, 1908, in San Gregorio, Catania, Cognata, as a cleric, had the joy of professing his perpetual vows to Blessed Michael Rua. October 29, 1909, Bishop Giovanni Battista Arista ordained Cognata a priest in Acireale. Between 1909 and 16, Father Cognata carried out his mission in Bronte, Sicily, in Este, Veneto, and in Macerata, Marche. 1916 to 1918 saw him as a soldier in the First World War, stationed in Palermo, Trapani, and Padua. 1925 to 1928, rector at Randazzo, Catania. 1928 to 1929, rector at Gualdo Tadino, Perugia. From 1929 to 1933, he was rector at the Sacred Heart Basilica in Rome. On March 16, 1933, Pius XI appointed him bishop of the Diocese of Bova in Reggio Calabria. He was ordained a bishop on April 23, 1933, in the Basilica of the Sacred Heart in Rome, at the hands of Cardinal Augustus Hollande. June 10 to 11, 1933, he was installed as bishop in his diocese of Bova. The population of the Bova diocese lived in great misery and lack of education. Many children were abandoned on the streets by their parents, forced to leave home for work or in search of just their daily bread. There was only one priest for the towns of Aspromonte, isolated, discouraged, struggling with misery, exposed to serious moral dangers. On December 8, 1933, to respond to this need, Bishop Cognata founded the Congregation of the Salesian Oblates of the Sacred Heart in Pellaro, Reggio Calabria. In the mind of the founder, the apostolate of this fledgling institution had to stand out for its humility, generosity, serving under the radar in every modest and small mission. At the service of the most underprivileged and neglected social groups, in places where others found it difficult to operate. The charism of the Institute is oblational. It is born of the Eucharistic sacrifice, and through it is consumed in the light of Christ, freely offered for the glory of the Father and the salvation of humankind. Cognata had meditated deeply the prophetic announcement of Jesus' mission from Isaiah. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. Pastoral charity was characterized by collecting the crumbs of the apostolate, as he would say, at the service of the local church, preferably operating in small towns where no other religious institutions were present. Bishop Cognata would tell his spiritual daughters, "Remain small and limited in what you do. Love the fact that you are small. This is how the Lord wants you. Missionaries without the applause of the people, in towns most in need of spiritual help." The Oblates are dedicated to the education of children and youth in oratories, catechesis, schools, workshops, summer missions, and with widespread activities for families. Their educational method and style of work and prayer are typically Salesian: the preventive system, pastoral charity, simplicity, joy, unshakable faith, and family spirit. Between 1936 and 1938, the Institute, led by Bishop Cognata, expanded considerably, extending its pastoral activity into the various regions of southern Italy. Some members of the clergy began to criticize and oppose Bishop Cognata, accusing and slandering him in the Vatican circles. Pope Pius XI became aware of this and firmly defended Bishop Cognata, comparing his situation to a thorn stuck in his side that hindered his bold and courageous ministry. In the eye of the storm, the situation worsened with the opening of their mission in Casal Bruciato in Rome in 1937, an estate owned by Baron Fassini, a supporter of the fascist regime. Following moral scandals, this work was closed by the ecclesiastical authority at the request of Bishop Cognata. This triggered a fierce campaign of revenge against Cognata, led by none other than the religious women who had been expelled for their indiscipline and disobedience, and also by Baron Fassini. On December 20th, 1939, the Holy Office, on the basis of false accusations, declared their condemnation of Cognata. He was removed as Bishop of Bova, perpetually suspended from the episcopal order, dismissed as founder of the Salesian Oblates of the Sacred Heart. On January 5th, 1940, Bishop Cognata released his official communication regarding the judgment of December 20th, 1939. The Divine Master, in his infinite love, has approached us through his sufferings, reaching fulfillment on the cross. By this means, he invites us to draw close to him in order to establish intimate union with his divinity. For 12 years, between 1940 and 1952, Cognata was welcomed into the Salesian houses in Trento for 1 year, and then 11 years at Rovereto. Between 1952 and 1972, he resided in the Salesian house of Castello di Godego in Treviso, where he would remain until his death. Throughout these years, he found Bishop Antonio Mistrorigo to be a good friend and defender of his innocence. Per crucem ad lucem. On April 8, 1962, Pope John XXIII reinstated Cognata to the episcopal order. On August 6, 1963, Pope Paul VI assigned Bishop Cognata to the titular seat of Farsalo in Greece. Between 1963 and 1965, Cognata participated in the Second Vatican Council. On July 22, 1972, he died in Pellaro in Reggio Calabria, the place where the Salesian Oblate missionary movement had begun. On March 23, 1973, his mortal remains were buried in the chapel at the Generalate in Tivoli, Rome. Misericordias Domini in aeternum cantabo. Today, the pastoral activity of the Salesian Oblates of the Sacred Heart is at the service of young people, children, the sick, vocational animation, liturgical animation, and family ministry. The birth of the ALOS movement, the Salesian Lay Oblates Association. ALOS is a lay movement affiliated with the Salesian Oblates of the Sacred Heart, whose members live their Christian faith in the world, following the Oblate Salesian spirit, witnessing to their baptismal vocation and spreading the gospel of charity. Inspired by Christ, the Oblate, they participate in the life of the Church with a missionary spirit to promote love for neighbor and Christian conduct. On October 14, 1985, the centenary of the birth of the founder, the Oblate women arrived in Bolivia. On October 14, 2008, the Salesian Oblates of the Salesian Heart also reached Peru. On January 25, 2016, they were called to the service of the Apostolic Nunciature in Malta. April 15, 2020, the Congregation for the Causes of Saints announced that the Holy Father, Pope Francis, had given his consent to the opening of the cause of beatification of Bishop Giuseppe Cognata, SDB, Bishop of Bova. December 12, 2020 saw the opening of the diocesan inquiry in Tivoli, Rome. October 1st, 2020, the diocesan inquiry was concluded at the shrine of Our Lady of Fatima in Rome. A hymn of thanks goes up to the Lord for this first milestone. Our joy will be complete when the Church officially raises Bishop and Founder Cognata to the honors of the altar. We close with this quote from Bishop Giuseppe Cognata. "Be the aroma of Christ," says St. Paul. "You must spread the fragrance of Jesus around you with a desire for perfection and with the practice of the virtues dearest to him, humility and gentleness."